Welcome back to the VybeShift Podcast. This week we've been exploring something incredibly human, the restless mind, the scanning mind, the overwhelmed mind, the mind that keeps running even when we desperately want rest. And what we've discovered throughout this week is that much of what we experience internally is not random. It's patterned, conditioned, protective, adaptive. The mind is often attempting to keep us safe, even when the methods themselves become exhausting. And today we arrive at perhaps the deepest question of the week. How do I experience peace without needing to control everything? Because if we're honest, many of us have unknowingly built our entire emotional stability around control. Not because we're bad people, not because we're weak, but because control can feel emotionally protective. If I can predict things, maybe I can prevent pain. If I can prepare enough, maybe I can avoid failure. If I stay mentally ahead of everything, maybe nothing will catch me off guard. And for many people, this pattern began very early in life, especially in environments where uncertainty felt emotionally unsafe. Environments where tension was unpredictable, where emotional reactions felt unstable, where approval could disappear suddenly, where conflict arrived without warning, where survival required emotional scanning. The nervous system learns from these environments, and eventually the body begins carrying a silent belief. If I stop monitoring everything, something bad might happen. This creates what many people experience as chronic internal vigilance. The mind never fully powers down, even during moments of rest, even during vacations, even during silence, because internally the system is still watching, still scanning, still preparing, still trying to stay ahead of imagined danger. And over time, many people become so accustomed to this state that anxiety starts feeling normal. Mental noise feels normal. Overthinking feels normal. Emotional tension feels normal. Constant future projection feels normal. And eventually, peace itself can start feeling unfamiliar, even uncomfortable. That is something many people never realize. Sometimes the nervous system becomes more familiar with stress than stillness, because stress becomes associated with preparedness, alertness, protection, control. And if peace feels like letting your guard down, the nervous system may unconsciously resist it. Not because you don't want peace, but because the body learned to associate vigilance with survival. This is why forcing peace rarely works. You cannot bully the nervous system into safety. You cannot shame yourself into calmness. You cannot wage war against your own mind and expect inner peace to emerge from the battlefield. And this is where many people unintentionally suffer, because they approach healing the same way they approach productivity. Fix it, control it, defeat it, optimize it, force it. But the nervous system does not respond well to force. It responds to safety, to gentleness, to repetition, to presence, to consistency, to moments where the body slowly realizes, I am allowed to stop running internally for a moment. That realization can feel almost revolutionary for some people, because many individuals have spent years carrying invisible emotional armor, monitoring tone, monitoring reactions, monitoring possibilities, monitoring outcomes, monitoring whether they are doing life correctly. And eventually, that internal pressure becomes exhausting, not only mentally, but physically. The body carries it. The shoulders tighten. The jaw clenches. Breathing shortens. Sleep becomes shallow. The nervous system remains partially activated all the time. And many people do not even notice this anymore because it's become their baseline. But peace does not begin by perfectly controlling life. Peace often begins the moment we stop demanding that life become perfectly controllable before we allow ourselves to breathe. That changes the entire relationship because now peace is no longer dependent upon certainty. It becomes rooted in presence. And presence is very different from control. Control attempts to dominate the future. Presence returns us to what is actually here, right now, this breath, this room, this moment, this body, this experience. Not the imagined future catastrophe, not the mental projection, not the endless internal rehearsal, just this moment. And one of the deepest practices we can begin developing is observing without immediate identification. In other words, learning how to notice thoughts without instantly becoming consumed by them. That is incredibly important because many people do not realize how quickly they merge with their thoughts. A fearful thought appears and instantly the body reacts as though the scenario is already happening. The heart races, the nervous system activates, emotion floods this body, and suddenly the imagined future becomes feeling real. Because awareness changes this process, because awareness introduces space, a thought appears, but instead of instantly spiraling into it, you notice it. Oh, my mind is protecting again. Oh, my nervous system is scanning again. Oh, fear is trying to create certainty again. That moment of observation is powerful because awareness interrupts unconscious movement, and slowly choice begins returning. Not perfect mastery, not emotional perfection, choice. The ability to pause before automatically entering the spiral. The ability to return to the body, the ability to breathe before reacting, the ability to ground before catastrophizing. That is not weakness. That is nervous system retraining. And grounding becomes incredibly important here, not as an escape from reality, but as a return to reality. Because fear often pulls us out of the present moment and into imagined futures. Grounding brings us back to the breath, back to sensation, back to the body, back to now. You can feel your feet touching the floor. You can notice the temperature of the air. You can hear the sounds around you. You can notice your breathing. You can gently remind the nervous system, in this moment, I am here. That sounds simple, but simple does not mean insignificant. In fact, many of the most powerful nervous system practices are deeply simple. Not because they're shallow, but because the body responds to direct experience more than intellectual complexity. And perhaps one of the most important realizations of this entire week is this. Peace is not the absence of uncertainty. Peace is learning that uncertainty itself is not automatically danger. That distinction matters profoundly because life will always contain uncertainty. Relationships contain uncertainty. Careers contain uncertainty. Health contains uncertainty. The future contains uncertainty. Trying to eliminate uncertainty entirely often creates even more suffering because now the nervous system remains trapped in endless monitoring, endless prediction, endless emotional preparation. But something shifts when we stop treating uncertainty as immediate threat. The body softens, breathing deepens, awareness expands, and little moments of peace begin appearing naturally, not because life suddenly became perfect, but because the nervous system is no longer fighting reality every second of the day. And maybe that is what peace truly is. Not controlling life, not silencing thought forever, not achieving emotional perfection, but learning how to remain present without declaring war against yourself. learning how to breathe again, learning how to soften again, learning how to trust moments again, learning how to return again, over and over, little by little, moment by moment, breath by breath. Thank you for being here with me this week on VybeShift Podcast. And before we close, we're going to continue this conversation in a much deeper and psychologically expansive way over on the Vibrational Stage Podcast. There we'll explore why control can become emotionally addictive, how hypervigilance quietly reshapes identity, the hidden grief beneath chronic mental overactivity, why surrender is often misunderstood, the deeper relationship between trauma and control, and how the nervous system slowly relearns trust again. While today's VybeShift podcast focused on grounding, awareness, and returning to the present moment, the Vibrational Stage podcast will go deeper into the emotional architecture between the need for control itself. Please follow the link to the Vibrational Stage podcast. I'll meet you there.